Now I will be teaching you about this internal structure of pons. Now, internal structure of pons we study in two sections. One section passes at the lower half, and the upper section passing to the upper half of the pons. So, when we take a transverse section, first of all, how to appreciate if it's from the lower section? So you can see that this the fourth ventricle, right? It's an open thing from on the dorsal side. So the pons, if it is the ventricular system is not covered dorsally, it is exposed. That means this section is from the lower section of the pons, because in the upper portion, it is, upper portion of the pons is covered by superior medullary vellum. The fourth ventricle, tapers there and connects with the aqueduct. So it's the widest portion of the fourth ventricle, which you are seeing here at the lower section of the pons. It will be covered by the cerebellum. Okay, so this will help you identify. Another thing is, in the floor of this fourth ventricle or the dorsal aspect of this pons, you find them, paramedian bulgings. These are the facial colliculus. Got it? So these are the identifying features, and otherwise the extension, the lateral extension of the pons, I have already told you, it's a bridge, right? So it is this middle cerebral peduncle which extends laterally to join with the two cerebellar hemispheres. So now how to study in a categorically manner is like we divide our teaching pattern such so that it's easier for you. This portion of the pons is called the basilar portion of the pons, right? This much portion here, which is covered by, which is formed by the middle cerebellar peduncle. This is middle cerebral peduncle. This is called the basilar portion of the pons, or the ventral or basilar portion of the pons. Okay? And this portion here behind to this middle cerebellar peduncle is called the tegmental part, dorsal or the tegmental part. Now, in the two sections, upper and lower sections of the pons, you will find that the basilar portion or the ventral portion is same in structure. There's hardly any difference in the upper section and the lower section of pons in the basilar portion. So this is the same in both the sections. Whatever differences you'll appreciate is in the tegmental portion, that is the dorsal portion of the pons, right? So tegmentum is actually extension from the medulla, upward extension of the medulla. Pons is, it's an extension of medulla, right? Except the ventral or the basilar portion. If you extend medulla above, you'll find all the tracts, nuclei, they are all running from, traversing, right? Some are descending, some are ascending, and that's all. Medulla is continuous with the pons. But the basilar portion is not an extension of medulla. Why? Because it's like a band. It's like a band placed anteriorly to the pons, connecting to the two cerebellar hemispheres. So this is another important, or you can say the peculiar feature of pons, that this basilar or ventral portion is not seen in the medulla, neither in the upper portion, midbrain also. So let's study about this basilar portion, which will be the same in the two sections. Here, talking about first the gray matter in the ventral or the basilar portion of the pons. In this, you find there is scattered small little gray matter, and this is called the pontine nuclei, right? These are pontine nuclei, placed ventral most, even ventral to the corticospinal tracts. These are the descending tracts, pyramidal tracts. But pontine nuclei are more ventrally placed. And these pontine nuclei, which is a segregated, scattered small little nuclei in the ventralmost portion of the pons, and during the course of development, some of these pontine nuclei descend down and reach to the medulla, the upper medulla. If you remember now the upper section of the medulla, you were seeing that there was an arcuate nucleus which was placed anteromedial to the pyramids of the upper section of the medulla. So that arcuate nucleus is actually downward extension of this pontine nuclei. Okay. So, and few of these pontine nuclei scatters away, away from this separately, and they form the pontobulbar body. So because of this developmentally spread of this pontine nuclei, you form, apart from these pontine nuclei, they form arcuate nucleus in the medulla, upper medulla, as well as pontobulbar body, which adjacent to the pons on the two sides, they also, these nuclei spread around to form the pontobulbar body. And these gray matter, they are scattered or spread because there are, this basilar portion has vertical fibers as well as transverse fibers. So they are spread along both. When you have strands, vertical fibers running down, so they will spread along to that also, and then down below they'll form arcuate nucleus. And when these pontine nuclei, they get displaced along the transverse fibers, right? Then they form the pontobulbar body. So that was about the gray matter impregnated in the ventral portion of the pons. Now about the white matter present in the basilar part of the pons. So among the white matter, there are vertical fibers and there are horizontal fibers. As I told you, vertical fibers are placed ventrally, and because of that, there is this bulging anteriorly. And the main bulk of the white matter, the descending fibers, are the pyramidal fibers, which is called corticospinal and corticonuclear fibers. Apart from that, there are also vertical fibers coming right from the cerebral cortex to these pontine nuclei. So corticopontine fibers are also the vertical fibers reaching into the basilar portion of the pons. Then after reaching to this corticopontine fibers, then they decussate and they cross and reach the opposite side, the cerebellar hemisphere of the opposite side. And these fibers are called pontocerebellar fibers. Pontocerebellar fibers, right? So pontocerebellar fibers will reach the opposite cerebellar hemisphere after decussating. So actually these are L-shaped, it's L-shaped tract, and this is called cortico-pontocerebellar tract. Cortico-ponto is a vertical tract, and pontocerebellar is a transverse or horizontal tract, but it crosses to the opposite side, right? So basically remember that this middle cerebellar peduncle is made by this pontocerebellar fibers, and they reach to the opposite cerebellar hemisphere after decussating. Okay? And you can see cortico-pontocerebellar tract reaches to the opposite cerebellar hemisphere via the middle cerebellar peduncles. Okay. Then transverse bhi ho gaya, vertical fibers bhi ho gaya. So we are done. Now remember that this will be the same in the upper section of the pons as well. Now we'll talk about the tegmental portion of the pons. Tegmental portion is all extension of medulla above into the pons. Now in this tegmentum, you can see there's a dorsal surface, or the deeper surface, which has two convexities on the dorsal aspect which form the facial colliculus. And let's study the gray matter first, then we'll talk about the white matter. So if you remember the functional columns, if you remember, because I have been emphasizing many times that functional columns actually help you learn the placement and the localization of the nuclei in the brainstem. So this is, the medial most functional column is general somatic efferent. General somatic efferent includes sixth nerve nucleus here in this column, and that is abducent nerve. So abducent nerve passes down straight vertically and emerges here onto the pontomedullary junction medially. Got it? Then the next functional column lateral to that is special visceral efferent. Remember? And in this functional column, you will find facial nerve nucleus in the pons at this level. So lateral to abducent nerve, remember, it will be the facial nerve nucleus. Special visceral efferent. So the fibers of facial nerve has this peculiar course that they first pass dorsally and medially, winding around this abducent nucleus dorsally and then emerging laterally, and then emerges onto the pontomedullary junction lateral to the abducent nerve. And this course, because of this winding of the facial fibers across this dorsally, across this abducent nerve nucleus, which forms an elevation there, and that's called facial colliculus in the floor of the fourth ventricle. And this movement, embryologically, this movement is called neurobiotaxis. Okay. Then they have not drawn, but there will be another nerve which emerges out. Remember that rather it actually is not emerging, it is actually reaching into the pons, and that's a pure sensory nerve. So remember that vestibular sensations from the organ, vestibular sensations from crista and macula of this semicircular canal from vestibule and saccule of the internal ear. These fibers, they reach here laterally, and they will be conveyed into the vestibular nucleus. Similarly, fibers coming from the organ of Corti of the cochlea, they will also be coming and they will be relaying here into the two nucleus. You have a ventral and dorsal cochlear nerve nucleus placed on the two sides of the inferior cerebellar peduncles. So lateral to the facial nerve, you will find another nerve. We actually say that this nerve is emerging out, but physiologically or functionally, if you see, it is actually entering the pons lateral to the facial nerve. Got it? So there are three nerves which is studied. Of course, facial nerve will have another small twig along with its laterally placed nerve, and that's called nervus intermedius, which is carrying parasympathetic as well as special visceral afferent sensations, the taste sensations. So that is placed lateral to this facial nerve, and that is called nervus intermedius. Okay, so that was then other gray matter present here. Because we're talking about functional columns. Let's see what functional columns lies lateral to this special visceral efferent will be general visceral efferent. Now, general visceral efferent, remember, is a parasympathetic outflow, right? So the fibers from here are called the preganglionic fibers, and they reach to the parasympathetic ganglia. So in this functional column at this level, you will find the the superior salivatory nucleus and the lacrimatory nucleus. However, the inferior salivatory nucleus actually is a little below, and it is placed actually in the upper medulla. But a better way is at the pontomedullary junction, you will find these three small nuclei. These are lacrimatory, then superior salivatory, then inferior salivatory. ये किस functional column में आते हैं सारे? General, visceral, efferent. Okay. So these were the three functional columns. Now let's talk about the afferent functional columns, which are placed further laterally in the alar lamina. The medial most afferent functional column is general visceral afferent, and then lateral to that is special visceral afferent. So both these functional columns actually join together and they form a single longitudinal nucleus, and that's called nucleus tractus solitarius, right? And this functional column is actually having only this nucleus, that is nucleus tractus solitarius, and that is present only in the medulla, in the upper enclosed portion of the medulla. So that's why you're not having any dysfunctional column of visceral afferent sensation, neither from the special visceral afferent sensation here. Then what functional column is placed lateral to that is general somatic afferent, right? And for the general somatic afferent, there is an entire longitudinal nucleus of trigeminal right from the midbrain down into the cervical upper two segments. So, the main or the chief sensory nucleus of the trigeminal lies at the upper pons. And from there, mesencephalic extends into the midbrain, while the spinal nucleus of trigeminal extends down into the spinal cord. So at this level, you will find is the trigeminal, because it's a lower section of the pons. So you find is the trigeminal spinal nerve nucleus, and adjacent to that place literally will be the tract of the fibers, the spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve as well as its nucleus. So this is general somatic afferent functional column, right? Now there is another functional column, and that is called special somatic afferent. And special somatic afferent, I told you, it includes vestibular and cochlear nerves, right? So vestibular nerve, remember, is placed adjacent to this inferior cerebellar peduncle, but it will be medially placed. And what will be the most laterally placed is the cochlear nerve nucleus. And cochlear has two nucleus, a ventral and a dorsal, on the two sides of the inferior cerebellar peduncles. And this is vestibular nucleus. Remember, while I was teaching you the third cranial nerve, I taught you that this is the which functional column it's included in this third cranial nerve nucleus. It is general somatic efferent, right? And that was having the two nuclei on the two sides. They were like fusing in between the midline, and they were forming oculomotor nuclear complex in the upper portion of the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus. Now, here also, this vestibular nucleus actually is a vestibular nuclear complex. I'll tell you in detail when I'll be teaching you about the eighth nerve. So here you have a medial and a lateral portion. You have subnuclei in this. There are 4 subnuclei in the vestibular nucleus. You have a medial and a lateral, a rostral and a caudal. The superior or inferior, rostral or caudal. The caudal or the inferior is also called the spinal portion. In short, you have upper, lower, medial, and lateral segments of this vestibular nucleus. Got it? And because of this, also remember that vestibular nucleus also gives an elevation onto the floor of the fourth ventricle. So you find is a vestibular area in the floor of the fourth ventricle, right? I had shown you in this dorsal view that there is an elevation laterally, and that is because of the vestibular nucleus called the vestibular area. Okay, so that was all about the gray matter embedded in the tegmentum of the pons. Now I will talk about the white matter of the pons. So again, medial to lateral, Remember the gray matter pattern. If you follow the pattern of these functional columns, you will easily learn the nuclei in the brainstem. So keep revising that functional columns chapter. Then about the white matter, you can see this is the median plane. In the tegmentum, dorsally are the extension of the medial longitudinal bundle. The medial longitudinal bundle is like it's a continuous band right from this midbrain upper level, reaches down to the medulla at the mid of medulla. So it's a longitudinal, actually it reaches to the entire medulla because it also is like communicating with the spinal accessory nerve. So this medial longitudinal bundle, actually the purpose of this bundle is to integrate the impulses from 5 nerves. Remember, mainly the 5 nerves. These are the 3rd, 4th, and 6th nerves. For the binocular movements, synchronized movement of the eyeball in response to the 8th nerve. 8th nerve is the vestibulocochlear nerve. And to move your head and neck according to the auditory impulses, that's why this 11th cranial nerve also intermingles and interconnects through this medial longitudinal bundle. So the purpose of this medial longitudinal bundle is to move your head and neck and your eyeball in response to auditory impulses. But another important factor is that the maximum fibers running in the medial longitudinal bundle are from the vestibular nucleus. So, vestibulocochlear nerve, it joins medial lemniscus, not only the cochlear fibers from the cochlear nucleus, rather also from the vestibular nucleus. And those will be all second order neurons. First order neurons are those right from the peripheral receptors, which they reached into the nucleus. So cochlear nucleus, vestibular nucleus, में जो fibers relay करके, they are the first order neurons. So the second order neurons will reach here, right? So that was about this vertical column called the medial longitudinal bundle. Then in the median plane, in the middle line, you find another decussation here. That's called the trapezoid body. This trapezoid body is actually also a part of auditory pathway. Let me in short tell you that auditory pathway, like the sensations of auditory impulses, they come from the organ of Corti of the cochlea, and from there these fibers come, and the ganglion is called the spiral ganglion, and from there these fibers come and relay in the cochlear nerve nucleus. Got it? From cochlear nerve nucleus, these second order neurons from the cochlear nerve nucleus, actually maximum fibers, they reach into the opposite superior olivary nucleus, right? So while in its course, they pass through maximum fibers of the second order neurons, they pass here to the opposite superior olivary nucleus, auditory pathways. They will also cross through this trapezoid body. ठीक है, इसको corpus trapezoidium भी कहते हैं, because there are also fine gray matter here, because few of these second order neurons, they relay here in the trapezoid body also. So they pass from here, then through this trapezoid body, they reach to this superior olivary nucleus, and from superior olivary nucleus, they further extend up into thalamus and will reach the medial geniculate body, and those will be the third order neurons. So third order neurons from here from superior olivary nucleus up to the medial geniculate, you have inferior, you have this lateral LGB related with the optic pathway, and medial geniculate body is related with the auditory pathway. So from superior olivary nucleus, those third order neurons will reach to the medial geniculate body, and that tract is called the lateral lemniscus. Okay, lateral lemniscus. अभी बहुत सारे lemniscus और भी आएंगे, तो for your remembering purpose, I'll tell you, it's easy if you think that your ears are placed laterally. on the two sides of your head. So everything lateral, most of the thing rather, are lateral world is related to this auditory and vestibular pathway. First is the ears are placed laterally. Then this nucleus, cochlear nucleus, is the lateral most placed nucleus or the lateral most functional column. Then the among the different lemniscus with which it ascends is the lateral lemniscus that ascends, right? And among this vestibular nuclear complex from the lateral portion, I told you there were four subgroups. From the lateral portion, there was vestibulospinal tract also. You have been taught about this descending tract. So vestibulospinal tract was, descending from the lateral portion of this lateral subnucleus of vestibular nucleus. So that was about the lateral trapezoid body we have done. Then here you find is medial lemniscus. Compare it with that if you have memorized the section of the mid section of the medulla and then the upper section of the medulla. There you find that at the middle of the medulla, those fasciculus gracilis, fasciculus cuneatus, then from this to nucleus gracilis cuneatus, these fibers, they were decussating in the median plane and were reaching down to form this medial lemniscus, and that was called an arcuate, internal arcuate band, the section of sensory decussation. So this actually is formed by the second order neurons coming from fasciculus gracilis of nucleus gracilis and cuneatus from opposite side. That means here the fibers which are ascending up in the medial lemniscus, they are coming from the opposite nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus, and these are the second order neurons, right? And furthermore, the important thing is that here at the lower pons, you will find another tract which will join this, and that is anterior spinothalamic tract. You have been taught about this spinothalamic tract, and which was, divided into anterior and lateral according to the sensations it conveys. So, lateral spinothalamic tract very well that it's about pain and temperature fibers, right? And it is also from opposite half, and these fibers were decussating immediately at the same spinal segment and reaching to the opposite side. So that is formed by the second order neurons from the, substantia gelatinosa, right? The first order neurons were relaying in the substantia gelatinosa and nucleus proprius. From there, these are decussated, and now they're ascending as lateral spinothalamic tract. Anyways, that was for pain and temperature. Now there was, lamina 3 and 4. For lamina 3 and 4, made the fibers, thus, crude touch, crude pressure, they were relayed there. So these are the second order neurons which form the anterior spinothalamic tract, and these anterior spinothalamic tract will now merge and will become a part of medial lemniscus along with the dorsal column. So it's about the medial lemniscus. And remember, in the upper section of at the level of the medulla, these were paramedial, vertically aligned, like, both the sides, they were paramedial in position, vertically aligned. Now they have become transversely aligned. Okay. So that's a difference in orientation of this tract now. Then lateral spinothalamic is still retaining its position. Remember, right from the spinal cord, medulla, and even in the pons, you will find that it is anterolaterally placed. You can say rather in the lateral funiculus. It was started in the neutral funiculus of the spinal cord. Now it's still in the same position. That is lateral spinothalamic tract. Now, but this tract, the word used earlier was tract. Now, because it's now conveying through the pons and further up, now it will be called the spinal lemniscus, right? So lateral spinothalamic tract from the spinal lemniscus while it passes through the pons. Okay. Then here you have the superior olivary nucleus. I told you it's a relay station for the second order auditory neurons, auditory pathway. And don't forget that inferior library nucleus was the biggest corrugated, crumpled, purse-shaped nucleus that was placed in the medulla, and that forms the olives. That's a different thing, and that was being conveyed. That was a part for the balancing. उसके लिए था, for posture maintenance के लिए, equilibrium के लिए, and these fibers were laying into the cerebellum to the opposite inferior cerebellar peduncle, and they were remember called the climbing fibers. बहुत सारे differences हैं. So from the inferior library nucleus through the inferior cerebellar peduncle were the fibers from inferior reaching the opposite nucleus, and that were called the climbing fibers. Here also they are reaching into the opposite cerebellum, but these are pontocerebellar fibers. Anyways, and about the superior library nucleus, it's a part of auditory pathway. What else remains? Yes, the important thing that remains still is this inferior cerebellar peduncles. So if you imagine that, below down to here, this will be medulla here, right? And dorsally, the upper portion of the medulla is also opened up to form the fourth ventricle. So it's a V-shaped, diamond-shaped fossa, right? So inferior cerebellar peduncle was dorsally placed. Remember, middle cerebellar peduncle is anteriorly placed, and both superior and inferior cerebellar, you can say superior and inferior cerebellar peduncle, they are dorsally placed because they're forming the boundaries of the fourth ventricle, while the middle cerebellar peduncle is ventrally placed. So, this is diverging out the inferior cerebellar peduncles, right? And you will not find it now because from here it is reaching into the cerebellum already. So you will not find this inferior cerebellar peduncle in the upper section of the pons. Okay. Now you're seeing is the internal structure of the upper half of the pons. Not much left. If you have understood, focused on your earlier slide about the lower half of the pons, much of it has already been explained. So here also we study in two parts. This is the ventral or the basilar portion of the pons. I told you this will be the same in both upper and lower portion. You find the gray matter here is scattered small little nuclei, the pontine nuclei. They were descending downward the midbrain, forming the arcuate nucleus. They were forming the pontobulbar body across when they were scattered out around the transverse fibers. Embryologically, they spread out and form different nuclei separately. But here, the pontine nuclei, the purpose is to, for the L-shaped fibers. Cortico-ponto are the vertical fibers. Cortico-pontine, and then pontocerebellar are the transverse fibers. They reach to the opposite cerebellum through the middle cerebral peduncle. You can see that the upper portion of the pons has a big peduncles on the both the sides. These are the cerebral peduncle, middle cerebral peduncles. Another white vertically running fibers are the corticospinal fibers. So the transverse striations, or you can say striated appearance of the ventral aspect of the pons is because of pontocerebellar fibers. Okay. Okay, this is middle cerebral peduncle. You've got to know about this peculiar identifying feature about this upper section of the pons. One identifying feature is very clear that the flow or the fourth ventricle will be a closed cavity, and the roof is being formed by the superior medullary velum. This is an identifying feature of the upper section of the pons. And another important identifying feature is that trigeminal nerve nucleus lies at this level. So both is here, the chief sensory nucleus of the trigeminal lies here as well. Medial to it will be the medial or the motor nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. So you'll find two nucleus here. You have a motor nucleus placed medially, M for motor, M for medial, and the main sensory nucleus. But they have, this is a correction in this diagram. They actually shouldn't have fused the two nerves because motor nerve arises separately on the ventral aspect of the pons and medially, while the lateral, you can say, is the main sensory nucleus. From the main sensory nucleus, the sensory portion also emerges, but lately the both of them arises actually separately. They have separate entity when they emerge on the ventral aspect of the pons. Where do they emerge actually? They emerge at the junction of pons and the middle cerebellar peduncle here. Okay, so, and one more thing is, remember that the sensations, all sensations from the face, right? Majority of the area of the face as well as the intracranial sensations are being intracranial and the deep structures of the face, the sinuses and all, they are ultimately reaching into the, this is general somatic afferent component. So three sensations are brought into this, spinal, superior nucleus, mesencephalic nucleus, the trigeminal. They relay here. Then the second order fibers, they cross. Important point is they cross here, right? So they cross actually sense. This is an afferent now, na? So we are not talking about the motor fibers. Motor ko we are just leaving it. Ye to lower motor neurons honge. We are talking is about the afferent pathway of sensation. So afferents are brought in here into the spinal, into the trigeminal sensory nucleus, and the second order neurons will now cross and decussate in the midline and will reach the opposite side and to the trigeminal lemniscus, and they will form a trigeminal lemniscus. This trigeminal lemniscus will be laterally placed to the medial lemniscus, and from here they will ascend up to the thalamus. Okay, so that was about the formation of these, ventrally placed in the tegmental portion. The vertical fibers, the white fibers are placed. Look here, now we talk about the only gray matter we have already studied here is the trigeminal nuclei. Now we'll talk about the, the white matter. White matter, as I told you, trapezoid body, again it's a part of the auditory pathway. The second order neurons from the cochlear nucleus reaching to the opposite superior olivary nucleus. They form the trapezoid body or the corpus trapezoideum, and even they have some nuclei here, so some of the fibers they relay here also. So this is the midline thing. Then you have the transversely placed, the medial lemniscus. I told you this was an ascending pathway of proprioceptive sensations. This is made by fasciculus fibers from the nucleus cuneatus, nucleus chrysalis, and the anterior spinothalamic tract. Now, what is about this trigeminal lemniscus? It is formed by the second order sensory neuron from the trigeminal nucleus. Now, what about the spinal lemniscus? Spinal lemniscus kya hai? This is the second order neurons of the lateral spinothalamic tract, and this is coming from the nucleus substantia gelatinosa. This is the second order neurons of pain and temperature. And lateral lemniscus, I just told you that lateral lemniscus will be formed by the third order sensory neurons from the superior olivary nucleus. This is a part of auditory pathway. इसलिए मैंने बताया था L for lateral, L for everything is laterally वाली relation जितनी है ज़्यादातर auditory ear से vestibular pathway से related होता है, तो L तुम्हें याद रहेगा. L is for auditory pathway. So lateral lemniscus is the third order neurons from the superior olivary nucleus reaching up to the medial geniculate body. So ये जो pattern है ये MTSL है. MTSL can be remembered as a mnemonic because ये order याद रखना है MTSL. MTSL, if you remember earlier, एक मोबाइल का सिम आता था और अभी भी कुछ स्टेट्स में होता है ये मध्यांचल टेलीकॉम MTNL, हाँ नगर मध्यांचल telecom nagar limited something, I don't know exactly इसका full form क्या है MTNL का, but it was a broadband sort of network MTNL. लेकिन उसी के मिलते जुलते you can learn this, the pattern here is MTSL. MTSL उसी pattern पे याद कर सकते हो, the medial to lateral, the arrangement of the four lemnisci in the upper pons, rather in the pons. Okay, ये pattern याद रखना. Then क्योंकि पूछ सकते हैं कभी भी labeling हटा देंगे, they can ask which lemniscus is this, या उसको और clinically what are the fibers running, और 10 तरह के सवाल बन जाएंगे उसमें. And this one is again medial longitudinal bundle, as I told you, right from the midbrain down to the medulla. It's a longitudinal strand. It communicates third, fourth, sixth, 8th and 11th. Now, the purpose of this was to move your head and neck and eyeballs in response to the auditory impulses. Very good. अब एक और identifying features है, वो ये है कि instead of now inferior cerebellar peduncle, because we are ascending and now it's the first time that you are seeing is the superior cerebellar peduncles now, because it's now you have crossed the transverse, just like a popliteal fossa padhte hain, the transverse crease of the knee joint is the widest space of the popliteal fossa. Similarly, at the level of the lower portion of the pons, or you can say at the level of the middle cerebellar peduncles, that's the widest portion of the fourth ventricle. So as you moving above now, the two boundaries will be now supromedial, supralateral, right? So that's why now in the above sections, you will not find inferior cerebellar peduncle. Rather now you are seeing is the superior cerebellar peduncles, right? They're forming the supralateral, supromedial boundary of the fourth ventricle, and the roof is bound by the superior medullary vellum. Everything has been covered. I believe you've understood it all, right? Lastly is about the blood supply of the pons. So again, blood supply, keep remembering the past lectures. Spinal cord